When can we expect the next generation Subaru STI? Yes, I said Subaru STI and not Subaru WRX STI. If you're familiar with YouTube, you know everything is about SEO, which is search engine optimization, and the fact that I'm going to stop using WRX STI and I'm starting to use just STI is going to kill my channel and kill these videos. But the reality is that Subaru has announced that their next internal combustion engine for the STI is not going to follow the WRX platform, which means we're moving away from the WRX STI and just to the STI. In today's video, I'm going to talk about when we can expect the next generation STI, what we can expect. I already said when. Yeah, when, what, how, what. I'm going to just talk about what my thoughts are, what my predictions are, what we've seen in the historical past of car manufacturers and Subaru specifically, and the team at Subaru that develops the WRX and STI. Before we get too far into the video, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you do enjoy the video or you enjoy some of the content or I add a little bit of knowledge to your fine brain, give me a thumbs up on the video. I would very much appreciate it and it really helps the channel out. All right, so Subaru, if you are aware of what's happening, has announced that we are not getting a new WRX STI. In fact, they've announced that they don't even know when the next STI is coming out, and they've given us some hints. They've talked about electrification, and they've basically said that the next generation internal combustion engine will not follow the WRX platform. That gives us an immense amount of information, and it will give us some critical information about what Subaru is probably hoping to do. I think that what this means is that the WRX and STI are eventually going to converge again into an electric platform, but what Subaru needs to do in the meantime is make sure they capitalize on the market that the STI is currently failing to capitalize on, because they can't compete with cars like the Golf R, the Focus RS, the Audi S3, the RS3. The RS3 is a little out of there, but the 400Z, even though it really hasn't hit anywhere, it's going to outperform it. The Supra, if you want to loop that into it, because it is starting to get into the same price range, the STI isn't competing anymore. So what Subaru needs to do is they need to deliver, like they said, a STI that wins that market back and absolutely wows people and converts people over before they go to electric, which will turn a lot of people off from the platform. But if they have volume, their proportion, while it might be the same, will proportionally bring over more people if there's more volume of people to bring over. You guys kind of get the picture. When are we going to see something? What are we going to see? What's the likelihood? Well, the reality is Subaru's hiatus is timed. The longer they wait, the harder it is to then remarket a car coming back. A lot of you guys are going to disagree because you look at things like heritage vehicles like the Supra, the Bronco. That isn't a reality. The STI doesn't have that basis. It just doesn't. It is a flagship car. It is an amazing car with an amazing community, but it's not the same. So the reality is Subaru, the second they sent that message, has either already started developing a new car. They probably are. They're probably already at the workbooks creating something. They probably already have some versions fab. But the reality is they're under a time limit. They need to produce something because the longer they wait, the lower they're going to be able to convert on their product. And that's just a business reality. My expectation from just a financial perspective and a maintenance of the community is that we're going to see something in the next 2 to 3 years. The likelihood is when I say see something, it's when we hear about it. And then we're going to have 12 to 15 months after the fact when we actually get it. So I'm thinking probably 3 to 4 years from now, we're going to see the newest generation internal combustion STI. That is my best guess. If they deliver something sooner, they've been planning it for a while, but there's a real big unlikelihood of that. And it gives them advantage because 2 to 3 years from now, we're going to start seeing the first real feedback from things like the 400Z, the 2-liter Supra. You know, we're going to see some more longevity with the Focus RS, you know, the Mustang GT with more power. We're going to see all those cars kind of age a little bit, and Subaru will be able to capitalize on the final stature and the final standings of whatever they are delivering to market and make those changes. So it does give them some advantage to wait for that kind of turnover and that cycle to happen. But the reality is we're probably looking 3 to 4 years out before you can actually purchase whatever it is. Now, my predictions for whatever it is going to be, definitely going to be internal combustion. But because Subaru is battling and what they've said with so many of these government restrictions, at least in the United States, about the environmental impact of their fleet, likely we are going to still see a 4-cylinder engine. We're not going to see a 6-cylinder like Subaru used to feature in the Legacy. We're just not going to see it because they're aiming for something different. They need higher fuel economy and less carbon footprint. But we are probably going to see a much lighter ride focused on the same rally inspirations, Could even be a two-door coupe. I really don't know yet. Probably very unlikely because the BRZ is still being produced in, massive form. But the reality is we were probably going to see a four-door, four-cylinder that probably produces between 400 and 450 horsepower is my guess. I'm thinking that we're actually going to see a high torque version. So with a lot of Subaru's cars, if you follow a lot of the WRX and STI renditions, especially with the FA20 motor, those cars in tuning and in, touching again, can make a quite a lot of torque and horsepower. But the limiting factor with the torque is the transmission. So my guess is that if they maintain a manual transmission, we might actually see the first Subaru car that has a much higher ability to push torque. So, and that's really exciting actually. So we might see a 400 horsepower car, which isn't crazy, but we might see a car that can hold 1.5 times the amount of torque, which will really mean that there are a lot less limitations in the aftermarket. People aren't going to be limited to tuning. The greatest example is the WRX, right? The WRX basically cannot take more than 320, 330 pound-feet of torque before the transmission starts having issues. Those things could be making a lot more torque, which would make the car extremely fun, way more fun, and torque on a light car is always what your butt dyno feels the most, right? That's what's the fun part of it. So if Subaru can capitalize on it, they will have a big win just in general. So my predictions is 3 to 4 years from now, we're gonna start hearing about a car, probably 4 years before we can start giving them our money, and we're gonna see something that is 4 doors, 4-cylinder, roughly 400 horsepower, and likely something that pushes more torque, because that doesn't mean necessarily they have to go with higher displacement or anything that would have a negative effect on fuel economy, carbon footprint, emissions, all of those things. So, and I definitely think that we will see something that's lighter. That is the reality. I think we're going to see a lighter platform and probably a remapped out or re-engineered all-wheel drive system that is just lighter, more forgiving, just different. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Those are my current predictions. Obviously, we will check in a year or something, because this is probably going to go dead for about a year. We really aren't going to hear about this from Subaru for some time. Their message was pretty clear. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Otherwise, stay tuned for more content. If we do hear more news, or I decide to go deeper into why some of these things are true from an engineering standpoint and manufacturing standpoint, which I might do, because I am trying to get an STI on the channel, which now has just gotten a lot harder because they've gotten a lot more expensive. So there might be some time between not having a WRX and an STI where I spend a little more time looking at engineering explanations. And if that's something you do want to hear, let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, have a great day, guys.